So I'm Paul Rothchild. I've been specializing in partial hand and foot prosthetics for the last 15 years. And in that time, I developed an approach that forged by one of my most difficult clients. And that's who I'm going to be talking about today. And those principles that I've come up with are, well, they exist, but a guide me to comfort, suspension, function, durability, and appearance. And it's really created a framework that allows me to serve every client, even though the frustration that I face and people trying to create solutions can be incredibly frustrating. And so this was forged out of me trying not to scream as much in my lab when something doesn't work out right. And talking about the first principle of comfort, when it comes to amputation, the goal for me is that someone can wear it and forget they have it on. That it's preferred to be worn than not. And in this case, this particular client had a skin graft from a traumatic accident on his farm. Now, he couldn't tolerate anything touching that scar tissue. So he had, from a fitting standpoint, it was a challenge. So ultimately, what was discovered is that a gel pad was incorporated to absorb the shear force that he would experience on that wound, allowing me to continue on. Without coming up with this, I wouldn't have been able to move on with this design. Suspension is the ability for that prosthesis to stay on independently. And in my client's case, he was left with an amputation that didn't yield a lot of anchor points. So he had to be creative with suspension. And what we ended up doing was figuring out a way and furthering my ability to compress soft tissues to create a fit that cradles around the anatomy. You can see the way the skin's compressing that we're creating anchor points so that prosthesis can stay on independently. And that's fit. That's, when you talk about comfort and suspension, you have what is fit. Now, from that standpoint, you already have a level of function. If you have comfort and it's suspended properly, it can become a therapeutic device. It's protective against the scar tissue that you have. And so you take the function that's the baseline, and then it's task-oriented advantage that the prosthesis can have. So engineering what's going to be useful for him. Now, this is not a movable device. It's a prehensile grasp position with semi-rigid fingers that allow him to oppose. And that gave him the ability to restore some function that he needed. He uses this hand every day. It's part of his vocation, it's part of his personal life. He has a farm, and he needs this as a tool. Durability to me consists of two different components. It's the ability for something to last for a while, and the ability for it to be refurbished, like a tire on a car. You know, you can patch holes in a car. Same thing with the prosthesis. He was tearing through these. When my initial design didn't hold up to that standard. So that didn't work. He had to come in a week later and need to be repaired. So I needed to come up with something that was going to make sure that prosthesis lasted. I ended up putting Dyneema fabric, which is familiar, is a very tear-proof type of fabric. I was able to laminate into his prosthesis so he could keep it together. It would last. It would hold up more than a week. And what we see, what the client sees, is it can determine whether or not someone wears the prosthesis. So for the ability for someone to accept this item to be on them, you have to look at, obviously, what it looks like. In my initial attempts, the material I was using, I didn't have the technical means to make something look good. And I struggled with not only that, but it was difficult to produce that for him. Time-consuming and not repeatable. And the Cosmesis, the better appearance, wasn't created out of making it look better. It was easier for me to produce. And the benefit was that it's allowed me to use this material that has the strength that I need and allow it to apply to more people from him. So now there's a metric that I see for success. And you can look at this and talk to the person you're serving and say, okay, where are we here on these metrics? Well, these are specific enough that, and I think that these principles allow me to, I showed you this partial foot design that really helped bring this into fruition, and I really hope that this can help community, and hopefully this is informative. Thank you.